to order. It's Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. So first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from Tuesday, April 12th, 2022.
Move approval.
Okay, Mayor Reardon, Councillor Harris, that's good. On the question? Okay, all right. So up first is the consent agenda, which is, which I'll need a mover and a seconder for. Okay, Councillor McKenzie, Councillor Harris. All those on the question? Okay, so moved. Sorry, I have to switch around a little bit here today. All right, so next up is item 1.3.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
If I could just interrupt, you went on the question asking if there were any questions, but because it is consent, we do need a formal vote, all in favor, and in one contrary, please.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion carried. You're welcome. Okay, so on to item 1.3. It's the St. John Immigration Strategy, and we have David Dobbelstein as well as Portfolio Solutions here for this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of Growth Committee. Today we have the latest update in our journey on bringing a new immigration strategy to the city and our region. You've met the presenters before, and I won't spend too much time introducing them, but all to say is what we have to you today is we're sort of nearing the end in terms of having a strategy for the region. The latest iteration of the strategy was recently approved at the St. John Local Immigration Partnership Council unanimously. So this has been a strategy that's been over 3 years in the making. There's a tremendous amount of behind the scenes work that has gone into being a platform on which to build this new strategy. Significant amount of consultation. I would suggest well over 1,000 people have had their fingers on this over the last 3 years, in particular over the last year. And we've been really pleased to be working closely with Portfolio Solutions, who really helped us bring this closer and closer, almost to the point where it's ready for the finish line. And just to reiterate how the process works, so we had a whole bunch of research that we conducted, and this built off the city's pre-existing population growth framework. And then what we had is a steering committee made up of members of the council, including Paulette Hicks from Envision St. John, who just joined the call, myself and leaders of our settlement agencies to help steer the process. And then Portfolio was tasked with validating the ideas and the concepts. And so what you have before you is something that's been tested and basically checked in with the community repeatedly. And this is where we think we have consensus from the community and the broader stakeholders in the region. And without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce Mike Randall from Portfolio Solutions to walk you through where we're going. So Mike, over to you.
Thanks, David, and good morning to the committee members, your worship and councillors, and to guests as well. We have met before. To remind you, my colleague Carrie Tasker is here, and she's the Director of Client Service here at Portfolio Solutions Group, and she and I worked hand in hand with our team and the steering committee in bringing this forward. I'm going to get Carrie to share her screen and present a deck that I'll take you through quickly.
I'm trying to share right now. I think I'm running into permission issues. As a heads up to whoever has that. Oh, there we go. It's now enabled. Perfect. Thank you.
So I should preface this by saying that this is a summary of a very lengthy and meaty document, but in the matter of time and to make sure that we got through all the highlights with you this morning, we'll just go through this quickly. So I'll get you to go ahead to the agenda, and we're going to take you through really 3 areas: the summary of the strategy development process, our objectives and targets that were set out at the beginning and that we worked with the steering committee and your input as well early on to finalize, and then the strategic priorities and recommendations, and we'll open it up for questions after that. As you may remember, this was a 4-step process that started with discovery, where we met with the LIP and the steering committee, and really went through all of what the city is looking to do and the objectives that the city had set out for this and the region. Then we went into a significant engagement process, as David said, validating so many of the things that had been done over the previous 2 years, and really making sure that the ecosystem was aligned and where the city and the region needed to go. And you can see some of the engagement sessions we held on the screen there. Then we went into developing the plan and spending time again with the steering committee and the local immigration partnership on validating that plan. As David said, that's been unanimously approved now by that organization. And then the final stage will be putting this into execution. And that will take place over the next 3, 4, and 5 years. So part of all of the engagement and part of all of the validation, it really became clear that the vision and mission around immigration for the greater St. John area is that St. John and region become a destination of choice for newcomers and their families in New Brunswick, and that the St. John community partners are committed to making St. John a welcoming, inclusive, and opportunity-filled region for immigrants and their families coming to New Brunswick. You're going to see this theme of family throughout some of the recommendations as well, and based on all of the research that had been done, all of the validation engagement, this is a vision and mission that is achievable and really can position St. John as a destination of choice in New Brunswick and in Atlantic Canada. I've showed you this slide before, council members, and I think it's important that we really reiterate again some of the gaps we've been dealing with, and there's 6 key areas: information, collaboration, attraction, service needs assessment, employer and community engagement, and international student transition to resident. Around information, and even in the development of this strategy, accurate and verifiable research and information is such a key to making good decisions. And it needs to be accessible to all key players, from immigrants themselves looking for information around St. John, and to service providers and employers looking to participate in the immigration process. And so gathering of information, the ongoing collection of information is going to be key moving forward. Collaboration is always a challenge when you have such a large ecosystem and so many amazing organizations doing good work. And we need to, the strategy needed to address that collaboration issue and identify approaches and processes where we can start to streamline some of those, and that there's clear accountability. Attraction, we really, as part of this, identified that an attraction strategy and engagement campaign that tracks results and actively promotes the region's strengths is needed. And that includes labor market needs and international connections and local culture, and really needs to tie in with the labor force development that Envision is doing and on behalf of the region. And these attraction strategies need to work together and support each other. The service needs assessment, the immigrant service delivery sector needs to implement regular internal reviews and organizational assessments. Part of this stems out of that collaborative approach and ensuring there is clear accountability in some ways. There's a lot of overlap and duplication that had been identified, makes it sometimes confusing for immigrants. And so ensuring that we're delivering strong services to immigrants is key. The employer and community engagement is such an important aspect moving forward, and a focused engagement and communication strategy is really going to be required to help employers develop cross-cultural HR capacity and really learn how to participate in immigration and access the immigration stream of potential recruits. And then a huge opportunity, I think, for the St. John region is international student transitioning to resident. You have a number of international students living currently in St. John, and making sure that we engage with them and we provide them that pathway to residency is going to be key again to increasing our immigration numbers. So there are a lot of strategic recommendations that we'll go through very quickly in a moment, but there's really three main pillars of goals, and it's attract, enhance the experience, and retain. And under attracting new people to St. John, we really do need to promote St. John as a city that offers world-class education opportunities, excellent career opportunities, and significant business development opportunities, while maintaining that family focus that we talked about off the top. We need to work with the province and the government of Canada to tell a better St. John's story to prospective immigrants. We need to better align the immigrant attraction focus to the labor market opportunities and priority growth sectors within the city of St. John. And we need to become growth ready in terms of job market and housing infrastructure. Under the enhancing the newcomer experience, one thing we heard over and over again is we need to eliminate the confusion or the complication of accessing services by providing a no wrong door approach to immigration services. We need to better coordinate settlement services to meet all the immigrant needs while eliminating that overlap and duplication. We need to improve access to available jobs to address core gaps in the immigration journey. And we need to create a better understanding by St. John residents on the need and opportunity associated with immigration. As I think I've said to you before, it's not that we're doing immigrants a favor by letting them come here, they're doing us a favor by coming. And we need to start to communicate that narrative both within the city of St. John and outside St. John. And we need to create a better understanding and engagement by employers in St. John on the opportunities that they have in addressing their labor shortages with immigration. And on the retention piece, we need to invest in the creation of those communities of support. That work is already underway by the city, both culturally and professionally. And we need to provide ongoing inclusion and settlement services for up to 4 years after settlement. And that includes services and initiatives that close the access to available jobs gap, and making sure that immigrants find jobs that are better related to their skills and their education. So as part of the strategy, we worked with the steering committee and the LIP to really look at the numbers in previous years and what is realistic from a target perspective in terms of percentage of growth year over year and that cumulative impact. And if you see here, we're recommending aggressive but attainable growth, both starting now in 2022, you see 8% growth, and that would be about just over 750 immigrants. And you'll see the progressive increase, 8% for each of the 3 years, 15% for the next 3, and then 25% growth between 2028 and 2030, totaling a welcoming of almost 12,500 new immigrants over that 8-9 year period. We also looked at Francophone immigration streams into St. John and looking at what those numbers could look like based on what we've seen in the past. And we're seeing 20% of total immigration by 2030 would be in the attraction of Francophone immigrants into the city. And then international students, what we're recommending, again, based on previous years and based on the tactics moving forward, and looking at enrollment and projected enrollment between now and 2030, we're looking at a increasing retention starting this year with 37% retained all the way up to over 50% by 2030. And what that will result in is 25% of total enrollment and 50% of those enrolled retained. Finally, when we look at retention growth percentage, starting in 2025 and through to 2034, what we're really looking at is retaining early on 65% of those that come, by 2028 retaining 80% and up to 90% retention starting in 2031 and beyond. Finally, before we get into the recommendations, there are a number of strategic assumptions that really need to be considered when you're looking at all of these tactics. We'll bring forward to you in just a moment. And the first is that this is the City of St. John's immigration strategy. However, a core strategic priority in ensuring successful implementation involves regionalizing the strategy and working with regional organizations and partners to do so. We've been lucky that Paulette and her team were a part of the steering committee, and you know, they have a mandate for that. There needs to be that integration and that collaboration moving forward, and we believe that is achievable and doable, both through Envision and with the work that the Regional Service Commission will do moving forward. The implementation of provincial municipal reform taking place, obviously, January 1st of next year is certainly going to impact how the recommendations within this strategy are executed. So once that reform is finalized and implemented, we're recommending the strategy be reassessed with roles and responsibilities confirmed and finalized, again, with that regional lens at that point in time. Another strategic assumption is that the successful execution of this strategy is really going to be dependent on obtaining dedicated funding from both the province and the Government of Canada, with funding needs, opportunities, and action steps to be identified by the City, of course, Envision St. John, and the regional partners. The City of St. John needs to execute on its housing strategy, which you released earlier this year, including increasing the inventory supply through development of new units. All of the immigration tactics in the world will not work if we don't have places for those folks to live. In the province, over the next 5 years, we'll see an increase in allocated immigration levels from the Government of Canada. I think I said this to you before, but if you add up just the projected numbers over the next 8 years with St. John, Moncton, and Fredericton, it actually far exceeds the current allotment of immigration to the province of New Brunswick by the Government of Canada. It's our belief that with the strategies each of those cities have collectively, we'll be able to make a very strong argument to the Government of Canada that New Brunswick and indeed St. John deserves more immigration allotment moving forward, and that we're prepared to welcome those immigrants. And finally, to be effective, this strategy needs to be endorsed beyond this committee by the full City of St. John and all of Council, Envision St. John, the St. John Local Immigration Partnership, which has now happened, the YMCA Newcomer Connection, the St. John Newcomer Center, and the St. John Growth Committee, PRUD, ONB, and Working NB. So some of these have already endorsed this strategy, and we're here before you today, and then ultimately we'll go to Council for final approval as well. So there's 8 strategic priorities under 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are telling a better St. John immigration story, improving immigration workforce opportunities, targeting and focusing attraction and settlement support for immigrants, and improving the newcomer community inclusion. So we'll take you through these, and I just in the respecting of your time. If you do have questions, we'll maybe save those to the end, and I'll just go through these quickly, and then we can dig a little deeper if you so choose. So,
Mike, just
yes.
One quick thing. I'm just going to give you a bit of a 5-minute warning, just because we're timing these today. So, no, a slight rush. I'm not going to say no rush, but
sure.
Okay, thanks.
Strategy 1 is establishing a no wrong door approach to immigration support services that enables customized support based on immigrant needs. There are 4 tactics under this strategy. The first, establishing a services inventory process to identify lead organizations. It's this accountability piece. And what we really need to do is look across the ecosystem, who's providing what. We need to do an inventory of that, and then we need to start to allocate lead agency accountability to ensure that it's very clear to immigrants where they need to go for service access. The second tactic is to create a dedicated role for newcomer navigation. You'll see in each of these tactics, there's a lead responsibility and a support responsibility. That dedicated role is Envision with support from the city, and you'll see the high level timing. This is Q3 of this year. Tactic 3 is to continue the development of an immigration website that acts as a no wrong door gateway. And then Tactic 4 is to continue to pilot a physical welcome center within the city. And again, that's a lead responsibility with Envision St. John. Strategy 2 is to better communicate St. John's offering to newcomers. And again, there are 5 tactics under this strategy. The first, define a strong value proposition and the supporting key messages, and then to promote that value proposition and key messages across all of the existing channels. Tactic 3 is to promote immigration services with a simple marketing campaign, and then establish as part of that communication, establish a series of collaborative welcome events starting in 2023 and ongoing. And then finally, develop a specific comms strategy for emergency services. We believe there's a real opportunity to better educate newcomers and to engage them in civic life very early on. And this was an offer from emergency services within the city that we think would be very, very useful. Strategy 3 is to create a pilot program for segmented and targeted skilled immigration attraction, settlement, and retention. This really builds on our priority sectors and our labor market assessment and needs. There's 5 tactics here: establishing a comprehensive engagement with employers across core employment sectors within St. John, and then developing a sector-targeted immigration attraction campaign based on that engagement with employers. Tactic 3 is to create a skilled workforce retention program for those identified sectors, both priority and opportunity sectors, and then finally develop a university and college internship program for those identified sectors so we can start to transition international students to residents and get them to take jobs within those sectors. And the final tactic is to measure and communicate results to both the provincial and federal partners. This is going to help again, with telling a better St. John's story, but also increase the overall number, allotment number from the federal government to New Brunswick and to the city of St. John. Strategy 4 is to expand and improve immigration-focused communications for St. Johners. There's 3 tactics here. First, measure, report, and analyze current campaign learnings. There's the campaign that's underway, and improve and then separate communications campaigns for citizens. And then finally, look to develop a communications campaign for employers specifically on how they can take advantage of immigration to address their labor needs. Strategy 5, expand and improve core settlement services that address key gaps along the journey. That includes expanding services and corresponding communications to families and ensuring immigration services are offered in both official languages. Tactic 3 will strengthen existing buddy programs and include ethnocultural groups. We're also recommending improved access to available housing information within the city, as we know that's such a concern today. And then the final tactic under this strategy is to integrate new settlement services and programs into the immigration ecosystem. Those that are identified gaps today, we're recommending those new settlement services be included. Strategy 6 is enhancing focus and positioning of why St. John to provincial and federal partners. We very much learned through this process that the better story we give them to tell, the better the results will be. So we need to develop an immigration impact report with compelling positioning. We also need to engage our provincial and federal partners to develop plans to action key immigration opportunities. Strategy 7 is to create a dedicated resource to implement the immigration strategy. We're recommending that the City of St. John create a role and dedicated resource who is responsible for day-to-day implementation, coordination, and measurement of the strategy and tactics. And finally, strategy number 8, to regionalize the immigration strategy. Work needs to happen with Envision to regionalize the strategy, and we're recommending that start late this year and work into next year and beyond. So that was a very, very quick review, Chair and members, of the strategy, but we'll pause there and open it up to any questions.
Thank you so much, Mike. I love the there's no wrong door concept. I think that's such a great sort of theme for this strategy, and it's an excellent one. So is there anyone with any questions today? Okay, Mayor Reardon, and then John McKenzie.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but Jennifer Waldschutz here at the city works very closely with a lot of the immigrants as they come in, you know, to the city, introducing them to the city, et cetera. And she will bring them up to the mayor's office when we talk about, you know, the politics of the municipal government, et cetera. Anyways, what I'm hearing from them, a couple of the reasons that they leave. One is transit's huge for them because they often come from a place where they've never owned a car and it wasn't necessary to own a car. They come from places where there's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 million people is a small city. So, you know, it's a different dynamic that they come from. And the other thing they're very concerned about is a place of worship. And with over 40 ethnocultural groups, you wouldn't have a place of worship. So it would be interesting for us to find out who could share their spaces in regards for worship. So that's like 2 of the recurring themes that I've heard with immigrants coming in to meet me is some of the reasons why they don't stay. I mean, groceries is another one, but you know, you can manage, but those are 2 big ones. Thanks.
We heard all of those, Your Worship. I would say that transit is big. The other one that I think that we need to recognize and understand is that newcomers are not always looking to buy a house, and the right kind of accommodations, 3-bedroom type apartments, and I know there's not lots of those available. Through some of the work we were doing in conversations, even, you know, with the Landlords Association here in New Brunswick, the idea of creating more immigrant-friendly type housing that accommodates larger families was one that came through a lot. Obviously, transit and that ability to access services throughout the city. I heard a couple of different stories of amazing St. John employers who have hired newcomers. And on the first day of the job, they were asked, "Where's the prayer room?" And it was kind of like, "What's that?" And certainly will accommodate you, but you know, knowing these things and preparing for these things is key. And so much of that is education and awareness, both within the city and making sure that we're very connected to the different cultures and the different immigration folks that are coming into the city to understand their needs in advance.
And hopefully the province will also understand that retention of immigrants, that transit is a key driver with that. Yes. That's an important message for them as well, because they claim that they would like to see immigrants come to New Brunswick, but then we need to support them, and that is a way that's important. So appreciate your work. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Councillor Killen. Mike, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate the presentation today. My concern is that we're asking the province and the feds for money to grow the city. And, you know, when we have a successful program like Succeed and Stay, when the funds run out, then you lose that program until you can find new funding. So my thought is, either we have a person in the city like Jennifer Waldschutz, who does an excellent job, become a federal employee who works out of the city of St. John on a permanent basis, or B, we get permanent funding for that position so that we don't have to worry about it. It's very difficult to run programs, especially this important, on the whim of another government. Governments change, priorities change, and you know, then all of a sudden you lose something that is really working to grow your city. So I'm 100% on board with the presentation and the way we move forward. But my concern is that we need to work on having a federal employee here locally that knows the ins and outs of what we're doing, or we need to have permanent funding for that employee or the employees, if it grows, to make these programs long term. Thanks very much for coming.
What I would just say to that, Councillor, is a number of the recommendations, especially early on, are building of the ecosystem and infrastructure and the accountability sort of governance model. And there needs to be some one-time or multi-year funding for that. But this is also going to require, and a few of the recommendations will require permanent budget items from the city itself for the continuation of this. And it's part of that investment to grow our population base, part of that investment towards labor and workforce attraction, part of that investment in growing our economic base as a city, and ensuring that we continue to grow and provide opportunities for St. John to become that destination of choice.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, over to Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation, Mike. Very extensive, very easy to understand. I don't have a whole lot of questions, but I think one of my main points there, taking away, is just that this is going to have to become a major consideration of our budget. As chair of our strategic plan, I look at this and I think there's a lot of ways in which this feeds into that entire framework that we've built there that is still to come to council, a little bit delayed for sure, but I think we'll align well with this. But I look at, some of the discussions we just had at the last council around housing policy. I mean, one of the ones we put forward, or I put forward in the motion, was to have this inclusionary zoning policy looked at for 3 bedrooms specifically. So I think, we're getting this message. Certainly the last time you presented, that was a big takeaway for me. And I wanted to make sure that our staff were kind of aware that, it is this council's desire, the will of this council, that we move forward with some bolder policy moves that are going to ensure we get the right type of housing specifically. We're already well underway with our transit redesign, which I think will support this as well. So anyway, a lot of good news. I love the alignment. I'm really liking where this has gone, and just congratulations and, well done to your team.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess the one thing I would say to that is, while this will require budgeting and new budget items, part of the recommendation also is to ensure that, and this goes back to some of those key principles, including collaboration. So much of what's happening here also ties in with what Envision is leading on workforce attraction. So much of it is ties into what the city and the region is doing on investment attraction, and we don't need to necessarily have silos and buckets of money. We need to look at this holistically and start to look at the integration opportunities. How can we best invest to achieve these same goals, and who is best positioned to lead the city forward? Is it the city itself? Is it the Regional Service Commission? Is it Envision St. John? And I think that those determinations, especially post-municipal reform, are going to be key considerations, but it doesn't necessarily mean always net new money. It means looking at the money we spend today and investing it as wisely as possible.
Yep, no, that's great. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Mike and Carrie, for joining us today. Really appreciate this. It's an exciting time to be a city councillor in St. John. There's so many intersections with this project, and I know immigration is so key to our growth, and it's really neat to see us also swimming in the same direction, I guess. So, all right, so with that, I will take a motion to receive and file. Okay, Mayor Reardon, Councillor Harris, on the question, all good with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks so much to the city, the LIP, and others for their great support through this. It was a very enjoyable and exciting opportunity project. So we really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. All right, so on to the next item here. We have item 1.4, St. John Theatre Company presentation with the St. John Theatre Company and Envision St. John.
All right. Well, good morning. My name is George Daniel, and I'm the president of the board of directors for the St. John Theatre Company. On behalf of the board and the theatre company, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you in this forum this morning. The board and I have been excited and committed over the last 6 years to see the development of this idea and vision, and from where it was to where we are today. Our hope is to inspire the Growth Committee to demonstrate their leadership with a truly once-in-a-lifetime project that respects our civic history, energizes and transitions the very center of our city into a vibrant cultural hub and introduces a facility that attracts curiosity through a unique architectural presence. My colleagues and I hope to show you why the Courthouse project will become a landmark in Canada and worthy of this committee's full support. I'd like to invite Stephen Tobias now to provide his comments. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, George. Thank you to the members of the Growth Committee and staff for facilitating this meeting. And I would like to acknowledge, I'm not sure how this works online, but I believe we have a number of pals and stakeholders watching in on various platforms. We'd hope we all be in the same room with you, but we're happy to see you regardless. So I know that we've had a lot of contact with City Hall and Mayor and Council over the last year and a half regarding this project. We have been in front of City Council on numerous occasions to give updates. We have received heritage approvals of our designs, which have already won awards and recognition for the community. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time to get into the weeds about the details of the package that you've been sent. I know you have that information in front of you. And we've had a chance to share a lot of that information with you over time. But we are here to talk about this project in the context of community growth. And I found it interesting actually listening to the previous presentation just made when I think of some of the programs that our organization has engaged in with organizations like Prude and the Black History Society and our Black Lives Matter project last year. We Were Here, which told stories from the Black community of this city. You all will probably have received invitations to an event that we're hosting this Saturday in partnership with the YMCA Newcomers Association, where we will be working with people from the Islamic Newcomer group to share stories and information about their culture and their heritage. And that will be at our BMO Studio Theater this Saturday afternoon. So it's just curious to me how this all dovetails together in the same line of thought to growing our community. Community impact of this organization is already profound. We have over 3,000 alumni around this community who have worked with us on various projects. We have, as an organization, been very outward-looking and community-centric in our approach, having partnered with organizations like Prude and the Black History Society, the YMCA. We have worked with education groups on anti-bullying programs in partnership with the Red Cross Beyond the Hurt program. We have worked on projects with education partners related to literacy in partnership with the library and the district school board. And I want to restate that when we're talking about growing what we do, it is in the context of growing all of that programming for the benefit of the entire community. Hardwired into my personal mandate, into the mandate and mission of the St. John Theatre Company, and hardwired into our recent strategic planning documents is a vision where we believe that the work that we do is for everybody. We don't consider this to be an elite activity for people in the cultural community or fellow theater makers. We believe that theater and the education impacts that our theater creates is there for everybody. And in that context, we hope that you will view the work that we're looking to do to the St. John County Courthouse as something that really does benefit the entire community. It's important for us to stress to you that the request that we have made of the city, we believe is commensurate with the scope of the project and with the level of support that we are receiving from other levels of government. We have really made a request based on our needs and based on the project needs. And more than that, we are looking for the city to send a strong and clear symbol of its support for this project. It has been outlined to us, I think, by many people within the city that there is an understanding that some form of token support will actually be detrimental to the project. So we would encourage you and hope that you can find a way to endorse a recommendation that will allow for more than token support. and find a way to work with us to actually deliver and encourage City Council to deliver the support that we've requested. We can be very flexible in how that is delivered and how it works, but what we need to be able to do is look our provincial and federal counterparts in the eye, look many of our other potential stakeholders in the eye that we are currently in discussions with, and say to them loudly and proudly and clearly that the City of St. John has exhibited strong and enthusiastic support for this project. Now, I could talk to you forever about the cultural impacts of this project because that's kind of my specialty. My specialty is not growth. And as we are sitting in front of the Growth Committee, speaking with you today, I would like to pass the baton over to someone who can speak very eloquently and strongly to the growth of this community and speak to the impact that this project can have to the growth of our community. And I wonder if I could call on Paulette Hicks from Envision St. John to share some comments with the committee at this time.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here speaking to the Growth Committee. And this is a file that we've been asked for a point of view from staffing. So we've been engaged with Stephen and his team for a number of months. We've been working with city staff to really evaluate. And I think from a growth perspective, really put that lens on what does this mean to the community, both from a tangible and intangible, but really take a look from that perspective, because obviously, you know, from an investment perspective, that's the lens that you're using, and we're here just to provide the information to help, you know, put that through the right lens. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a slide deck that I did share with staff that I'd like to take you through. I won't go in heavy detail because I do want to leave some opportunity for us to talk about this, ask any questions that you may have. So I'm just going to share quickly my screen here. 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen? Stephen, can you see it?
Yep, we're good.
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, there it is. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So when we took a look at this project on behalf of the city and obviously working with the Stevens team, we really felt this was an opportunity for our city to, you know, ignite all arts and culture in our community. You know, so certainly looking at staging for the future, we looked at the courthouse, really long history in our city. It is a transformation, a courthouse to a playhouse. So really see this as an opportunity from a branding perspective, but also it is a restoration project, which is needed in our community and certainly part of the story that we're telling, that, you know, revectoring of what our urban core looks like. And this project really fits nicely into that. So looking at you know, the world-class performance and talent that it attracts for the next generation in our region. We've looked at the numbers that have been shared with from the St. John Theatre Company team. You know, an additional 1,000 performers and special events that would come in the first 5 years. So again, that really fed into the data in analyzing why this would be a good project from an investment perspective. Looking at hosting over 100,000 visitors per year. So obviously, even helping to, you know, lift the economy coming through the pandemic. What are the things that are going to fill the restaurants, fill the hotels and the shops, and really drive economic impact? We did look at the hotel spend as it relates to overnight, because we know that that is something that's very tangible as it relates to the data. So looking at the events, the type of events, and what that does to the uptown core and how it feeds into hotel nights. And obviously hotel nights is outside money, which really helps lift the economy. So looking at this project, you know, we feel, you know, this very much does fit the Place brand. You know, we are on a journey to create, you know, a truly unique theater hub for our region and the province. So we see this opportunity for Uptown St. John is really, how do we brand this as the arts and cultural district? And certainly with the amenities that we currently have, this actually adds to the next layer. So attracting and retention. So we feel this is catalytic without doubt as it relates to arts and culture for St. John. Again, reinforcing that we have an entertainment district, and we've certainly seen that with festivals and Area 506 and Moonlight Bazaar, that we are really starting to build a strong reputation, not only in the province, but throughout Atlantic Canada, and I would say nationally, about what is happening in St. John. We recognize that, you know, from Envision St. John's perspective, totally aligned with the city of St. John about growing our population. We know that this is a key area of our focus. We put a big stake in the ground for the next 10 years to grow our population in the region by 25,000. With that said, you know, looking at what are the motivators and the amenities that are needed to both attract and retain our youth. And we know that our population has declined in that category, that age category for 20 to 29 across the province. And we feel strongly that it's key amenities like this that can be the game changers that really motivate people to make different decisions. So with that said, I've included some data around population growth in rates in the age category of 2029. You can see in 2013 up to 2017 we were in a decline, but you can see that there's a shift here. Things are changing, and that is correlated back to the decisions that have been made and the investments that have been made to really make the Uptown and St. John vibrant. We feel this is a project that actually also helps protect, you know, and protects it, also builds the stage to move forward in that area for growth. We've done an analysis on the impact. So certainly from the courthouse perspective, there is impact from the investment on construction, but also there's operating. So we have actually used estimates from the economic impact based on the achievement of 100,000 visitors per year. So there are certainly direct and indirect impacts that come from this that we put into the model to create these numbers. So growing to meet the demand. So as I said, you know, this really builds on the brand that we're building as it relates to arts and culture. I will emphasize the importance of the collaboration already in this sector. You know, we have a very strong statement coming from Imperial Theatre that this does not take away from Imperial Theatre. It just builds on what we're trying to grow in this sector. So really demonstrating the collaboration and the importance of having this. And again, you know, not to overemphasize, but this really is about engaging our young people and again creating a vibrancy in the Uptown that give people a reason to visit here, live here, invest here, and study here. So, you know, again, when we look at this, we're just, again, aligned with our mandate with Envision St. John. How do we accelerate growth? Working with partners like the St. John Theatre Company, we commend them for looking at this ambitious project. There's a lot of components to it, but it certainly fits very much with our regional value proposition. And with that, I will stop to open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Paulette. That was it's a magnificent vision, and it's very exciting to think about. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Paulette or Stephen? Okay, sorry, Mayor Reardon.
I don't have a question, but it was great in there to see that it's building a arts and culture hub for the province, you know, because I think it's important to link that back to the province as well. So it isn't just an impact for St. John. And we, like Stephen said at the beginning, we're talking about retaining immigrants, et cetera, and building our population. So I think it is it's great. It's great. I think what Envision's put together for us is very interesting and very thought-provoking. So thanks, Paulette.
Okay, I think it was Councillor McKenzie next.
Thank you, Chair Killen. Thanks, Stephen and Paulette, for coming in on this. This is an important file, I think, for everybody. You know, we're turning a corner in St. John. Arts and recreation are becoming something that we need to really look at more closely and build upon. And I think that St. John's well on its way. I think a project like this is definitely complementary to the Imperial, not the opposite. I think that, you know, they work together well, and having all of these amenities close together in the Uptown area really, I think, draws people there, and it's something that attracts younger people, as you say, Paulette, to the area. So yeah, it's very good, and I really appreciate you coming in and doing the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor. On to Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend both Stephen and George and Paulette on a great presentation. It's obviously a slam dunk when it comes to what the city can do as far as return on investment. So I'm certainly looking at this and really, supporting staff in coming forward with a bold level of support for it, because we're seeing very clearly that the return on investment is here for our community. And we're seeing very clearly that it aligns with our strategic values. The one question I have is there been any thought, and this is probably a question to you, Paulette, has there been any thought or connection to how this fits within the cruise tourism ecosystem? Does that support that? Is there any connection point there? Because I'm not sure if cruise passengers would ever take in a show at something like the Imperial that it currently is there, and would they be able to take in stuff like that? Would that align with those schedulings, or is that a missed link there?
Well, here's what I would say initially. When I look at cruise, obviously, cruise is always looking for that repetitive, because that's the way they sell their excursion. So it has to be, the timing, to your point, has to be consistent, and they can book it all the way out. However, what I would say from the tourism perspective is a lot of our cruise passengers are drivable. Often they come out of, New York and Boston, 7 hours away. A lot of the tourism growth that we have seen are that return cruise visitor. They touched us first. They saw a charming little city and said, you know what, I got to go back for more. That was just a taste. That's where I think the opportunity is. So when we look at No Wrong Door, and you saw it in the last presentation, we're not just attracting visitors. We're looking at every touch point to say, how do we turn a visitor into a, whether you want to study here, whether you want to invest here, whether you want to live here. And if you're already here, how do we keep you? So what are all the amenities that we need in a community that makes us the right fit? We can't discount cruise. That is a touch point that we can see a conversion, whether it's more visitors, more residents. People are looking at things differently. So every time they come to our community, cruise cannot be understated what that could mean over the next 10, 15, 25 years as we grow our population and we become very attractive and an option, a serious option for people.
I think I could speak to that a little bit from an operational perspective as well. And there are a couple of things that we've looked at. And the first, and really one of the things that attracted us to this particular site, is the unique heritage aspect of this property. If you look at tourism brochures from the 1970s and 80s from St. John, they would feature prominently the staircase at the courthouse and areas like that, which we will of course keep intact and enhance for public use and viewing. But the building, we're not in the business of building buildings, we're in the business of building programs. The building exists to house the Atlantic Repertory Company, which we've been growing for several years. Having a group of professional creators in the community using that site as a home base creates opportunities. This summer, for example, we will offer for the second time what we call our Loyalist Burial Ground project, which is effectively an uptown history tour, which has been informed by the work of people like David Goss, local historian. We are looking at projects like that in the summertime that can be a benefit specifically to tourist interests, cruise interests, etc. Having a group of creators in the community housed in this facility gives us the flexibility to offer the kind of cultural product that those tourism and cruise operators need to make the community more attractive. Right. Believe me, we're on top of that.
Yeah, that's great. And just one other point to that, tourism product, we're always looking for how we sell the city, and we can't understate that staircase. I mean, that is the staircase from Harry Potter. That is a tourism product all on its own. And believe me, from an Envision St. John perspective, that is something that is highly marketable.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. I think this is so exciting to even look at St. John as the provincial cultural hub and our play for the museum as well. Just how we can use all this stuff to come together to really make us a destination on that front. So awesome work, everyone. This is actually just a receive and file. So we thank you so much for your time. Can I get a motion to receive and file? Councillor Harris, Councillor McKenzie. Thanks. Okay, and with that,
thank you.
I will call this meeting. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor McKenzie and Mayor Reardon. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great, beautiful Tuesday.